often tune in on YouTube, and I see just every morning how we have such a solid group of enthusiastic devotees joining to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, hear from these wonderful scriptures. And yeah, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, thank you just for the opportunity to, even for a brief moment, kind of enter into this company here. So, and Adi Purusha Prabhu, just wanted to thank you so much. I always love hearing your singing with guitar. It brings me back to special days in the ashram, and it gives the same kind of inspiration now as it did then. It's something that's always fresh and always just very sweet. Helps to, get in touch with the heart.
Prabhupada says beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So,
Hare Krishna.
glad you appreciate.
Yeah, always. Thank you. All right. So today we'll be actually beginning a new chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, if I'm correct, right? Ananda Bihari Prabhu, chapter 17. We are just starting today. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we'll be beginning chapter 17, so new chapter, but it's dealing also with the topic of Kalia, but it's almost as we would, in modern kind of film terms, call a prequel. We're kind of looking back on what really brought Kalia to his circumstance of being in the Yamuna River and creating so much disturbance. And how did it all start? So anyway, we will be entering into this new chapter together. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. Everyone can see. And we'll just share briefly that the title of this chapter is The History of Kalia. Do we usually, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, read these summaries at the beginning of the chapter?
Not really, but you can do it if you're inspired.
Oh, well, I can summarize it, in the course of the talk. Just wondering if that was the standard, then I would have read through it. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Rajovacha Nagalayam Ramanakam Katam Tatyaja Kaliyaha Kritam Kim Vasuparnasya Tenaikena Samanjasam. Translation. Having thus heard how Lord Krishna chastised Kalia, King Parikshit inquired, why did Kalia leave Ramanaka Island, the abode of the serpents? And why did Garuda become so antagonistic toward him alone? Okay, so Maharaj Parikshit, he's known as the inquirer. So he is always seeking further information, further understanding. So inquiring into what he just heard, this incredible pastime of Krishna and Kalia. Shri Shuka Uvacha Upaharye Sarpajaner Masi Hayo Balihi Vanaspatyo Mahabaho Naganam Pranirupitaha Swam Bhagam Prayachanti Nagaha Parvani Gopitayatmanaha Sarve Suparnaya Mahatmane. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Shukadev Goswami said, to avoid being eaten by Garuda, serpents had previously made an arrangement with him, whereby they would each make a monthly offering of tribute at the base of a tree. Thus, every month on schedule, O mighty armed King Parikshit, each serpent would duly make his offering to that powerful carrier of Vishnu as a purchase of protection. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami has given an alternate explanation of this verse. Upaharyahi may also be translated as by those who are to be eaten, and sarpa janai, as those human beings who were dominated by or who belonged to the serpent race. According to this reading, a group of human beings had fallen under the control of the serpents and were prone to be eaten by them. To avoid this, the human beings would make a monthly offering to the serpents, who in turn would offer a portion of that offering to Garuda, so that he would not eat them. The particular translation given above is based on the commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami and the translation by Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In any case, all the acharyas agree that the serpents purchased protection from Garuda. Okay. So these are the verses we'll be looking at today, and we will offer an invocation and prayers to our spiritual master, to the acharyas, and to Krishna, Srimati Radharani directly, and seeking mercy so that we may enter into this discussion in a favorable, enthusiastic, and heart-transforming way. Om Agyanatimirandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatanvitam Tan Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminite Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshutarine. Okay. So thank you all. And before we begin, I would also just like to seek everyone's blessings, well wishes, kind-hearted well wishes, so that we can enter into this discussion. And Adi Purusha Prabhu would like to humbly seek your blessings as a long-time enthusiastic practitioner of Krishna consciousness, and all the devotees who are assembled here today. Thank you. Okay, so this passage is kind of the beginning of Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry into, okay, so we just heard this incredible pastime, Krishna and Kalia, that we've been now going through, our group here has been going through for quite some time. And it's a really remarkable pastime. I mean, Gaur Sharan Prabhu, I remember, gave a class early on when we were first entering into this pastime, he spoke about special case demons, how Krishna kills many demons in his Leela, but there are special case demons where they are not killed, or they are killed in a very, very particular way that there's a greater consideration of their actual intention, their actual heart in the situation. So one example is here, Kalia, who his wives, the Nagapatnis, are so devotional and so disposed toward bhakti. They're great devotees. And also Kalia, deep down, we come to see, is a great devotee as well, and offers beautiful prayers to Krishna, but only after being severely chastised and banished from the Yamuna. But Kalia is obviously a very special and fortunate soul, we can say, as he has Krishna's lotus feet dancing on his head, on his hoods. And another special case demon that Gorsharan Prabhu mentioned is Putana. So Krishna kills Putana, who is trying to poison him with poisonous breast milk, poison on her breast, and she's trying to pose as a nurse, nursing Krishna. Krishna kills her in this course by sucking the life air from her through the breast. But we see that he also grants her deepest spiritual desire, deep down, beyond all of the enmity, beyond all of the envy, beyond all of the malice. She actually does wish to serve Krishna in this mood of Vatsalya Ras, parental love. So Krishna sees that deep down and gives her an eternal position, serving in that way among the senior cowherd women. So these are special case demons. So anyway, Maharaj Parikshit, ever inquisitive, wants to understand more about where did Kalia come from, that this whole circumstance arose, and why was Garuda so, well, the exact word I'm forgetting, but why was Garuda so unfavorably disposed toward Kalia? Why did Garuda have an issue with Kalia? And so what we understand in this chapter is why he left Ramanaka Island, and why this tenuous relationship developed. So it made me think of an often repeated phrase, and I never knew who said it. I looked it up. It turns out it's Oscar Wilde. But every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. We hear this said often. And so it's interesting because Maharaj Parikshit is inquiring into the past of Kalia. And so, yes, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. So both of these can be interpreted as speaking to the Lord's grace, right? That every person who has become somehow or other saintly, we can be sure that they had a past that carried some difficulty, that there were some difficulties in their past. They were not always necessarily saintly. Of course, there are special cases where people are just saintly from day one. But certainly in this Kali Yuga, in the modern age, we find that most people who are of saintly nature, they still had their own periods of searching, their own periods of trying to find their purpose. And they may have, gone through some difficulty along the way. And every sinner, which that word, we're told always, to emphasize the sinful activity more than branding someone a sinner. But just for the purpose of this quote, that every person who commits sinful activity has also a future, that there's always space for the Lord's grace. There's nothing that really precludes someone from receiving the Lord's grace, that bars them from receiving the Lord's grace. And we see this in the case of Kalia also. Kalia literally bites and attacks Krishna directly. And yet, somehow or other, he receives the Lord's mercy and grace in a very unique, particular way, but no doubt it's his grace. We can also say that for the purpose, this dichotomy, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future, that also every sinner, so-called sinner, has a past as well. And it's quite often something very horrific. And if we look back on the circumstances of people who commit abominable activities, we can often find so many things that they had to endure. We can't say that this necessarily justifies, the actions, but at the same time, it gives us a lot more insight into how it all came to be and what kind of conditioning formed and what kind of issues of trust or issues of, just carrying long-term pain or anger, disillusionment, what kind of coping strategies kicked in that caused someone to act in a certain way. And we can at least understand the situation on a much more human level. So in Kalia's case, we find a sort of conditioning. We can't say it's some horrific thing that he had to go through that made him this way, because he himself says that as a serpent, he was born envious. But at the same time, we see a kind of a circumstance that Kalia was coming through, that the serpents were making offerings to Garuda. And this verse says, purchasing protection. And Kalia became envious of these offerings to Garuda and wanted to actually accept them as his own. So we all want to be big fish in small ponds, we can say, or big serpents in small ponds. That sometimes when we see others receiving praise, receiving tribute, we wish to possess this for ourselves. And that's even in the most, simple of circumstances. Of course, Garuda himself is truly a great personality as the carrier of the Lord. But even if someone's not a great personality, even if in our own microcosmic kind of space, our own small world, we see someone receiving some special status, special authority, special respect, we can very easily become envious of this. And it depends on conditioning also. But what we find in the case of Kalia is that we never become great by trying to be big, by trying to be a big person. We never become great. So Kalia, in this case, he was trying to be big by accepting Garuda's offerings for himself, trying to enter in and move into this space of being the recipient. So when we try to become the recipient of anything other than mercy, really, yes, we want to be, there's a place in spiritual life for greed, for loliam, for lobha, for this greed for the mercy that's flowing abundantly from Krishna, from the devotees. So yes, in that case, we want to be recipients, no doubt. But otherwise, we want to give, we want to serve, and we never become great by just always trying to accept all of the credit, to accept all of the respect, to accept all of the bounty for ourselves. In spiritual life, we try to cultivate a perspective that actually shows us that all of the glory, all of the tribute, all of the respect actually belongs to Krishna. And in this way, we can understand our true position. And it's not disempowering to understand that we are small in comparison to Krishna. It's actually quite empowering, because in that sense, we are connecting to the root. We are connecting to the source of all, the source of all. So here, I'll share one verse here on the screen, which is relevant to this point, and it's a principle that we can return to time and again. So this is coming from Sri Upanishad, first mantra of Sri Upanishad. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magrita kasyasvidhanam. The translation by Srila Prabhupada is everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this principle that in reality everything belongs to Krishna. And we see that Kalia was trying to claim for himself that which belonged ultimately to Krishna, and in the immediate sense, to Krishna's immediate servant, Garuda. So in this case, we can have no doubt that Garuda, being a great devotee, would not accept this tribute for himself either, that ultimately he would offer it to the Lord. So when we have confidence that the devotee of the Lord is truly using resources in Krishna's service, then offering resources to that devotee is at the purest level. It may be rare, but at the purest level is just like offering to Krishna himself. So a great devotee is expert in offering whatever they receive to Krishna. So the serpent's offerings to Garuda, where are they coming from? They're coming from a place of fear, right? They're fearful that if they don't make this offering, that Garuda will eat them. So what can we say about offerings made out of fear? Offerings made out of fear, yes, they on some level, the offering is being made, but it's not as pleasing to the Lord or the Lord's devotee as an offering that's made out of love. So we can start to consider different types of offerings that may be made. In this case, the serpents are making their offerings out of fear. So what can we say about fear-based devotion? And I put devotion in like air quotes in that case, right? If devotion is connected to fear, we talk about God-fearing people. So to be God-fearing, what does that mean? It means we have some regard, some understanding that we are small compared to God, but we may not necessarily trust that God loves us or that God has our best interest at heart. So fear-based devotion is often kind of I don't even want to say devotion, but yeah, fear-based regard or worship of God may be productive for a very short season. But at the same time, if it's prolonged, it can lead to so many things. It can lead to burnout, it can lead to resentment. Oh, I'm just doing all of this out of fear, just doing all of this so that I can be protected. I'm doing all of this so that I can avoid punishment. That's not really a very sustainable approach to our spiritual life. And it often leads to seeking shelter elsewhere, unfortunately, because if one is operating on the platform of fear, it's our human instinct to not want to live in fear. We want to move away from what is bringing fear. So if someone is viewing the Lord as fearful, then eventually they'll feel a desire to get away from that fear and live in a way that is less fearsome. So this is why it's very important, and all of our acharyas emphasize this, that we have to progressively in spiritual life move to a higher platform in terms of our understanding and our connection to Krishna. So better than fear is awe and reverence, for sure, Aishwarya, that there's this spirit of just being amazed at how magnificent and how great the Lord is. And we have a great reverence. This is called Aishwarya, this way of saying, oh, my Lord, right? It's just in this mood of complete amazement and also feeling very overwhelmed by the glory of the Lord. So awe and reverence, there's a place for that. Awe and reverence to some degree prevents us from making offenses, especially in the early stages of our journey. Awe and reverence is sort of a protector against offense. Srila Prabhupada instructed the devotees to worship the deities in a mood of awe and reverence, that the deities should be worshipped very opulently. Otherwise, we may make offense by becoming too familiar, too too casual. So better than awe and reverence, though, ultimately. So awe and reverence is better than fear, for sure. And better than awe and reverence, for sure, is love, is deep, genuine connection to the Supreme Lord. And of course, we know that there are different rasas, different moods in which this love may manifest, in a neutral way, in a parental mood, in the mood of a friend, in the mood of love, a conjugal romantic love, and also in the mood of, what am I missing? Yes. So these different moods can be there. And actually, Rath Yatra, many of you I'm sure have attended Rath Yatra. Rath Yatra is a wonderful festival that is actually themed in this way. One of the deep meanings of the Rath Yatra festival is that we're trying to pull Lord Jagannath deeper into our heart, beyond awe and reverence, because the Lord Jagannath is often worshipped as in the mood of awe and reverence as Krishna in Dwarka, Krishna in his kingly mood. And there's a special pastime in which the Lord Krishna, Baladev, and Subhadra, they go to Kurukshetra. This is after Krishna has left Vrindavan. And the Brajvasis go to Kurukshetra to meet the Lord. They're so eager after so much deep, painful separation. They go to Kurukshetra to see Krishna. And when Krishna arrives, he's in a very different mood. He looks different. He's wearing royal attire, crown, armor. And the Brajvasis are thinking, yes, it's nice to see Krishna, but where is his forest garland? Where is his yellow dhoti? Where is his peacock feather? He's not looking the way that they're used to. And in this sense, they wish for him to return to that conception, to acknowledge all of the Vrindavan pastimes, all that they've already shared together. And when Krishna sees the Brajvasis, particularly sees the gopis and Srimati Radharani, he becomes ecstatic. And this is one explanation of how this form of Jagannath is there, that his eyes widen, he smiles, his limbs contract in joy. So in this way, Rath Yatra, the act of pulling Krishna deeper into our hearts, beyond awe and reverence, into a very deep personal connection and love. So the theme of this is that we have to in some way try to move beyond religious acts that solely happen for our own benefit. Like we see here that the serpents are making an offering to Garuda, who is a great personality, but they're not making an offering to Garuda because he's a great personality or because he's Krishna's servant. They're making an offering to Garuda because they're fearful and they are seeking protection. They're paying for protection. So we can say that when we engage in religious acts that are just for our own benefit, this is karma kanda. This is an act of, yes, there may be a direct result. If I do this, this, and this, and offer this, this, and that, I get this particular benefit. It's transactional. So then beyond karma kanda is jnana kanda, when someone's seeking spiritual knowledge. So that's a little bit deeper than karma kanda. And then beyond jnana kanda is what's called upasana kanda, which is bhakti, which is making offerings for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna advises that we surrender unto him. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masuchaha. To abandon all varieties of religion, to surrender unto him. And in this way, we will be protected from all sinful reactions. We'll be protected from fear. He says to Arjuna, do not fear. So this is the ultimate protection from fear. So then just a question for our discussion, which is, how can we overcome fear of deepening our connection to Krishna? How can we overcome the fear of what we may have to give up in that process, and actually trust that Krishna truly has our best interest at heart? And how, in the spirit of the great devotees, to come to internalize this truth that Krishna's happiness is actually our greatest happiness. That when we're serving Krishna, when we're pleasing Krishna, we will be truly happy. So instead of acting separately for our own happiness, how can we start to make contact with this reality that when we serve, when we try to please Krishna, then we also naturally become happy, like watering the root of a tree. how all of the branches and leaves and flowers are nourished. So I'm aware of the time. I'm going to stop here and leave space for group discussion. So thank you all so much, and looking forward to hearing everyone's reflections.
Thank you, Dina Bandhu Prabhu. I liked how you drew this line from fear to awe and reverence, then to love. That is so nice. Thank you. For a special case demon like me. That's my roadmap. Okay, Isabel Spirit Soul has her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful class. One of the things that came up for me on this is I was raised Roman Catholic, and no, all due respect to the Roman Catholic Church, but it is pretty much God-fearing. And the rituals, like sort of confession and stuff like that, I always felt like I had to do it out of fear. And it was the silliest things. Like I was a child, and here I am being told that I'm committing sins. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a sin. It's something silly, like maybe I raised my voice to my mom or something like that. And it was innocent, but it was always like, I have to go to confession to be forgiven, so then I could be a good person again. And that always felt like I'm raised, like my whole life I was anxious, and I related to religion back in the day. And when I came, and then I fell away from Catholicism because of fear. And when I bumped into literally Krishna consciousness again at a later time in my life, I was again, I couldn't approach Krishna or open up because I was not sure, what Krishna conscious was all about. So I was like, it's God, it's scary. And then little by little, to answer your question, like how do we, worship Krishna sort of in a genuine way, is by slowly surrendering. Like the more you learn, the more you attend classes, you just start to open up, and then you start to realize that it's a God-loving God. It's a God-loving path. And then all of a sudden, all this fear, like I can't explain to you, but it's like, I don't know if you've ever been in a lot of pain. I suffer a lot of pain, and I've been hospitalized, and the pain is so horrible that they give you a shot of like morphine or something. It's just this wave of relief, and you feel no more pain. That's how Krishna consciousness happened to me. Like all of a sudden, all the fears just like it like goes away from your body, and you open up and you surrender 100% to Krishna. And that's my observation. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel. And thank you for sharing also just about your own upbringing, your own experiences with faith growing up, and also your challenges with physical pain and health, health issues. Because it's really, my firm belief is that in every spiritual tradition, people can be found who are genuine devotees and who are deep, lovers of God. I do think that they're out there in every spiritual tradition. But sometimes we just find that the way that the tradition is shared may emphasize these different aspects of fear, of guilt, of, so many things that make religion so difficult for so many people. And if we're able to enter into the essence, and this is something that Srila Prabhupada has so beautifully offered, he offered the essence from the very beginning when he was at 26 2nd Avenue in the East Village. He was just offering the essence and allowing people of all different religious backgrounds, all different religious experiences, positive, negative, neutral, to make contact with the essence. And as you said, to engage in this gradual process of surrender. It's not an overnight thing. It's generally not healthy if it's an overnight thing. I mean, in rare cases, maybe someone will have that inspiration from a previous life, something like dive right in, but it's okay for it to be gradual. And also, what you said about how Krishna consciousness kind of extinguishes this pain made me think of the prayer that we sing in the morning program that Adipurusha Prabhu was, no, he was singing Guru Vandana. So, but the other Guru Vastakam, so samsaradava nalaliloka tranaya karunya ganaganatvam. So that the mercy of the spiritual master is like a great rain cloud that pours soothing, cooling rain on the ever burning fire of material existence. So when you said that about just the pain going away, very much like that. That burning is soothed. Okay, I saw Bhakti Hugo. Did you have your hand up? Please, Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. I'm especially enjoying the theme of every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. And Isabella's point also made me think about my journey, because I was also raised Roman Catholic. And I remember then I became atheistic, and then I started inquiring into spiritual life again. And when I started inquiring, I went all in. I mean, I just dove right in. And I remember I didn't know what to do, but I'd gotten a Bhagavad Gita at a music festival. So I'm like, all right, people talk about this book, I'll start reading it. And I also knew my Roman Catholic upbringing. And so what I would start doing, I remember I learned how to chant japa, the Maha Mantra from Devotees. And every day I would chant a round of the Maha Mantra on japa beads, and I would chant a round of the rosary as well. And I was studying the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible at the same time. And I remember, I mean, clearly I really kind of dove into the Krishna conscious side of things. But I remember in those beginning days, I chanted the rosary for a while, but I was always just, why am I such a sinner? It just didn't fit right with me. You know, the prayers of the rosary are, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. And you say that 10 times, again and again and again. And then with the Our Father prayer, hallowed be thy name, pray, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And I remember in the beginning days, I'm like, why is there so much emphasis on sin? It doesn't feel right. Versus with the Maha Mantra and the Krishna consciousness, it was just connection. There wasn't an expectation. There wasn't a judgment. There was just, I'm trying to connect. And later, of course, I came back to these Christian prayers and also to the prayers of our acharyas. I was thinking of Gopinath, which is a bhajan that I've been singing a lot lately. And I pulled out the translation just to have it up. But one of my favorite lines from there is, O Gopinath, I am the sinner of sinners, yet I sit waiting for you to take me, for many demons have attained your lotus feet. O Gopinath, you can do anything. You have purified the most wicked by your power, but who is more wicked than me? And so now I'm just reflecting on this fact that, yes, we are sinners. We've done wrongs, but the idea is that every sinner has a future. So now we pray just like Kalia. I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. I've hurt myself. I've done so many wrong things. Krishna, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to change and I want to serve you. And then we move on. We accept what we've done, and then we understand that there's a future for me. And then also this idea that every saint has a past. I'm thinking how sometimes you'll read the biographies of some of our advanced devotees, you know, just really respected individuals. And you read about how they were coming into Krishna consciousness when they were teenagers, what have you, like, what? They did what? They did that? And you're just amazed because their stature is just so high. And then it reminds you that Krishna is so powerful. He can save any one of us if we simply choose. There is no soul too low for Krishna consciousness. And so appreciating that point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, wonderful reflections. And yeah, absolutely. You know, just that great devotees feel themselves also to be very fallen. You know, this is even in the present tense, even after, you know, like you said, being elevated to another platform, great devotees still feel themselves to be very, very low and insignificant. And it's not an artificial thing. It's also just the limitlessness, you know, the limitlessness of Krishna consciousness. Everyone will always feel that they have so far to go, and because Krishna is unlimited. So yeah, it doesn't mean that we see them in that way, but a great devotee will always feel themselves to be kind of, you know, still having so far to go.
When Indra Prabhu first moved into the temple, he brought a bag of weed with him. He said, just in case. And then he went on the fire escape and blew it into the wind. It says he wasn't necessary. Yeah. Okay, William G.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to mention that Jamuna raised her hand before me. Jamuna Jai, she raised her hand before me.
Oh, William, that's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for class, Dina Bandhu. Always
Hare
just
Krishna,
really wonderful. You're
Jamunajaya.
just so full of joy and encouragement. Just your face on the screen just fills my heart with love. So thank you so much. I was reflecting, isn't it wonderful? Krishna's, how wonderful is Krishna that he always says that every emotion can be used. And so it was with all this talk of fear, it was reminding me, we're misplacing the fear. It's not fear of Krishna. It's what Prabhupada would say is that the thing that we're not fearful enough of course, is Maya. And so we're putting our fear in the wrong place. Fear does have a place, and it's to be fear of Maya. And I was just reading Mahatma Das's really wonderful book. And he was making this point. He goes, great souls never forget that. They never toy with Maya. They never think I got it, or even like, I can dip in a little bit of Maya and it'll be okay. It's always like the horror house in a movie, like, don't go in. And so I was just really appreciating that Krishna gives it. Yeah, you want to feel this emotion of fear. Yeah, don't feel it to me. Feel it for Maya, because she's what's going to get you. So I was just really reflecting on that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful point. Yeah, that Prabhupada mentioned that, he's one of his main concerns about his disciples. He said, I feel that they're not sufficiently afraid of Maya. So yeah, if we have a fearful nature, or if we're accustomed to carrying some fear with us, that's a very healthy fear that we can carry with us, that will actually help us in spiritual life, as opposed to too much fear toward Krishna. That can be quite distancing with time, as Isabel really nicely, emphasized how after some time living in that fear-based mentality toward the Supreme can kind of just ostracize us, make us walk away. So yeah, we want to develop our love for Krishna, but fear of Maya is healthy in spiritual life. Thank you. Yeah, don't go in there. Bhakti Hugo just noted that down, what Jamunajaya said. And maybe all of our well-wishers and all of the devotees in spiritual life are like those who are watching the horror movie, seeing the person going in and saying, don't go in there, don't do it. Yeah, but yeah, okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Isabel, you have your hand raised.
No, she's surrendering.
Okay, that's the previous. That's just your blessing for us. Thank you.
Temple room, Adipusha Prabhu. Or
Isabel answered your question perfectly. How do you get there? And she perfectly described exactly what scripture says. First, you hear, she said you're attending classes, and then you understand how wonderful is Krishna, and then you surrender completely. And we were just reading recently in the Bhagavatam that unless we surrender, we can't be fearless. We have some separate agenda, some separate desire. So by hearing how wonderful is Krishna, our desires are purified, and we give ourselves totally to Krishna. And it says you can't become fearless, you can't actually become loving unless you completely surrender. So these are like side effects, they come with the package of, Lord, I want to give myself to you. And all good things will come from that. All good qualities will come from that. Every single result will come. Surrender to Krishna. When you have $1 million, all your $10 problems are solved, right? All glories to Prabhupada. That's what he was preaching, not just nibbling around the edges. Okay, so we have the darshan about to happen here. Radha Murugadhar coming.
Thank you so much, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
All glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
put us on a donation box. Adipusha Prabhu. Yeah, when I tuned in this morning and I heard all my fears went away immediately. Thank you. Or Sharon, Hare Krishna. Kula Pradeepa, that should have been you.
You know, I'm worse than him.
No.
Yeah, the Manjari.
So nice to see Gulaji. Nice. Hare Krishna.
Parampara. Thank you, Dina Bandhu Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Haribol Gurcharan Prabhu, thank you for the beautiful darshan. Thank you for bringing us there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dinabandhu Prabhu. Great class, great reflections, everyone. Thank you for participating actively. It's always very nice when the philosophy hits the room, when the classes get real. I liked it. Thank you, Dinabandhu Prabhu.
Thank you, Ananda Bihari Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah, very meaningful to hear everyone's personal reflections. Yeah, as you said, like kind of where the rubber meets the road of the philosophy, when it becomes something that we're actually sharing how it has kind of appeared in our lives, or how our lives, led us to a particular place of seeking out this philosophy or seeking out this practice. Very meaningful always to hear.
Yeah. I was reflecting when you were talking about fear. I was like, when I'm in class, that's when I feel no fear. And one time Prabhupada was asked, Srila Prabhupada, what do you feel when you're chanting japa? Does anyone know the answer? Dinabandhu knows. Okay, let's see if they can guess. Who can guess what Srila Prabhupada said? Srila Prabhupada, what did you feel when you chant?
That I'm not afraid.
Yes, I feel no fear, Srila Prabhupada said. I feel no
Abhacharan.
Abhacharan, yeah. That's Srila Prabhupada's name, right?
Fearless at the feet of the Lord.
Yeah. Okay, we can take one more reflection, dear devotees, one more. And then we'll let Dinabandhu go and practice his fearlessness in the real world. Okay. All right, then let's wrap it up. Thank you very much, Dinabandhu Prabhu. Thank you, dear devotees. Come again tomorrow to experience this state of fearlessness. And don't go into the horror house of Maya. Or if you're there, get out, come back in, come back, get back on the wagon. Okay, Hare Krishna.